Hello everyone, welcome to It's Crochet O'Clock. My name is Stephanie, and in this video I am going to be showing you how to join your motifs for the shawl Amy's Embrace. If you are interested in the written pattern, there is a link in the description box below that will take you directly to that. It has all kinds of great stuff with charts and graphs that show you placement and all of that great stuff that's in it. It would be extremely helpful for you. The link to purchase that is in the description box below. The link to purchase the Eco-Lush yarn that we are working with is also in the description box below. But in this video, we're going to be talking about joining the motifs. This is the main motif here, and I have blocked it just so you guys can see what it looks like when it's properly blocked, what it is supposed to look like, and to make it easier for you guys to see where we are joining. I have another motif here that I have worked up all the way to the end of round 6. So if you have not done that, you're going to want to go ahead and do that. This motif right here is going to be referred to as motif 1. This motif right here is the base motif, okay? So we're going to start this off exactly how we normally would. The only thing that's going to change here is a couple slip stitches in place of our chains. That's all. It's really not as complicated as you might think it is. I hope anyways. So we are going to slip stitch into this chain space right there, and then we are going to chain 4 just like the base motif. This chain 4 counts as a double crochet and a chain 2. We're going to place a puff stitch between the 2 puff stitches right here of round 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over, pull through all of them, chain to close, and now we are going to skip this puff stitch and we're going to move into a corner. But because we're joining this, we are going to pause midway through our corner, but we need to place 3 puff stitches in that chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Chain to close. 1 down, 2 more to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 down, just 1 more to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now this is where we would create our actual corner. We would chain 3 and then place 3 more puff stitches in the same chain 5 space. But because we are joining, we are going to chain 1 and we're going to replace this middle chain with a slip stitch. Now throughout this, you're going to hear me refer to north, south, east, and west, and the reason that I do that is because I think that it's extremely universal. No matter where you are, you understand north, south, east, and west. So this is our base motif. We are going to turn it to make a diamond, and this is north, this is south, this is east, and this is west, okay? So we are going to begin our join on the west corner. At this point, it doesn't matter which corner you choose. You just got to choose one. So we have chained here on our working motif, and you are going to come to your base motif and go into this chain space, and you're going to slip stitch to it. Slip stitch. That's it. Now you're going to chain 1, and we're going to finish off our corner as normal. So we need 3 more puff stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. One last puff in the chain space. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to skip over this puff and place a puff in between the two from round 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okie dokie. Now we are going to skip this puff, and we would normally chain 2 here, okay? But because we are attaching, what you're going to do is you are going to lay it down, see how it matches up. Our first chain of this chain 2 is actually going to be a slip stitch, and these mirror each other. So you're just going to slip your hook into that chain space on the main motif and slip stitch. Chain 1. That slip stitch in this chain 1 replaces our chain 2. Now we're going to double crochet in the chain space on our working motif. Now we get to the point where we do chain 3s. It's the exact same thing, we're just replacing some of these chains with slip stitches. So you will chain 1, look at where we're at, find the one that mirrors it, which is the next chain space on the base motif, insert your hook and slip stitch, and then chain 1 to finish. So that chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1 replaces our chain 3 for the final round. Now we're going to skip over this stitch, double crochet in the next chain space, chain 1, find the next chain space on the base motif, you see it there, insert your hook, slip stitch, and then chain 1. We have a couple more of these to do. Skip this stitch, double crochet in the next chain space, chain 1. Now we're going to look at our work without me losing my hook or my yarn. Hold on. There we go. All right. So we have this one left that we have not attached to. So we've chained 1. So now we are going to insert our hook, slip stitch, and then chain 1. And now we have one more chain space here to work a double crochet on our working motif. And now we will chain 1. This is the end before we go into our puffs, right? Before we start working into our corners. So this is only a chain 2 that we're replacing. So you will chain 1 and then slip stitch to that last chain space. And that replaces our chain 2. Now we're going to finish working our corner. So between those two puffs, just as we normally would, we're going to place a puff, now we need 3 puffs in the chain 5 space, two more, 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 5. I almost messed up. 1 more, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now you might want to, you're going to want to instinctively attach to this corner. But here's the thing. We were working like this because it's easier to do, but now we have defined the directionals for the base motif. This is north, this is south, this is west, and this is east. So motif 1 is connected to the western corner of the base motif. Okay? We will leave this one and just finish working it as normal. We're not going to connect it to the north, because throughout the pattern, in most places, unless it is an outside, you are only connecting north and south, east and west, except for the outer motifs. The outer motifs are always connecting here, and I know that it doesn't make sense now, but it will as we move on. So what you're going to do is you are going to finish off round 7 on motif 1, just as you normally would, okay? Then you're going to work up another motif all the way to the end of round 6, and I will meet you back. That's motif number 2. I will meet you back and show you how to attach it here, and hopefully it will make a little bit more sense to you what I'm saying about why we are not attaching this right there, okay? Pause the video. I'll see you soon. I have finished the last round of motif number 1. You can see, remember, it's free flowing here. We did not attach to the northern corner of the base motif. Now it's time to attach motif number 2. Now I have worked all the way up to the end of round 6 for motif number 2. So we're just going to work ourselves over to a corner because that's where our first attachment is going to begin. And again, it starts just like the rest of them. We're going to slip stitch into that chain space, chain 2, and then chain 2 more. So chain 4, that counts as a double crochet and a chain 2. Skip the puff, puff in between these two as normal. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to place 3 puffs in that chain 5. There's 1. 2, 1 more. Okay, 3 puffs, almost half of a corner there. So it's the same thing. We are going to replace this chain 3 that normally would happen to continue on with this corner with a chain, slip stitch, and then chain, okay? So we need to chain 1, and then you're going to go and turn this around so you can access it. You don't have to keep the directionals pointing the way that they need to go. Now, let me turn this, see if I can explain it to you a little better. Okay, we're going to be joining motif number 2, and that goes right here. And remember I said west to east, east to west. Those connect to each other. North and south, south to north connect, except for on the outside edges. So we actually have a corner here to the west. We have the east corner of motif number 1. So that is where we are going to connect to first. So just like we did with this one, just going to grab this corner here. We've already chained 1, and we're going to slip stitch to this corner. Now chain 1, finish off this corner as you would normally. 3 puff stitches left to go in this chain 5 space. There's one. Two. And 3. Now we need to place a puff stitch between those puffs of round 6. Now it's time to go to a join again. I'm going to remove my hook so I can turn this work and you can see how it's going. So we've joined the western corner of motif 2 to the eastern corner of motif 1. Now we need to work down the side. We are not joining here because this is the northern corner of the base motif. Remember, north, south, okay? So just like we did with this one, we need to replace this chain 2 that's covered up right there. This chain 2, that's where we're working on this corner. So I'm going to flip my work back around, get my hook in there. Okay, now the slip stitch that is closest to the motif, always on these, if we're going into the webbing, your first stitch will be the slip stitch to the one that you're joining to. When you're coming out of the webbing, you chain 1 and then you slip stitch. You'll see me do this a couple more times, so it's okay if you don't get it. So there is our chain 2 space on the base motif. We're going to slip stitch to it. That's our first chain, and then chain 2. Now back to the working motif, double crochet in that chain space. Chain 1, we're moving into the chain 3s. So remember, we're replacing the middle chains with slip stitches. So our next chain space on the base motif is right there. So we are going to slip stitch, maybe, and then chain 1. Now back to the working motif right here, that chain, double crochet, chain 1, find the next chain space, which is right there, slip stitch, chain 1, just a couple more. Here's the next chain space that we're going to be working into, double crochet on the working motif, chain 1, moving back to the base motif. The next chain space available is right there, slip stitch, chain 1, and now we are at our chain 2, so we're going to double crochet on the working motif, chain 1, because this is the end and we always want that slip stitch to be closest to the puffs. So back over to the main motif and slip stitch. Now we're going to go back to the working motif. I know this is a lot of back and forth, but it's okay. You'll get it eventually, okay? We're going to have 3 more joins before I leave you to your own devices. So now we need to work that puff stitch between the 2 puffs of round 6. And now start the corner, 3 puffs. There's one, we need two more. Okay, there's our 3 puffs. Now, this is the southern point of the base motif. Okay, this is the eastern point of the base motif. So now, because this is an outer edge, just like this one over here, because this is an outer edge, we are going to attach to this. Normally, we do not do southern to eastern or southern to western, except for on the motifs that are on the outside of our shawl. And this is a little bit different because it's our first row moving up. So we're going to chain 1, and then right there, that is the, again, that is the eastern corner of the base motif. We're going to slip stitch to it, replacing that second chain in our chain 3 that's normal, and then chain 1. Now I'm going to finish out this corner so you can see what it looks like, and hopefully it will make a little bit more sense to you. 3 puffs. I'm just going to go ahead and do this puff too. Alright, so I'm going to turn this around because I know that it gets confusing. We're flipping and flopping. So we have joined motif 2. You're going to have to imagine that motif 2 is complete, like the base motif and motif 1. But you see how it attaches here in the center? And the northern point is kind of crazy right now, but it will get attached. I will show you how it gets attached. But for now, finish off round 7 of the second motif. Work yourself up to round 6 for motif number 3, and we will join that one quick. It will give you another round because that is joined the exact same way as motif 1, and then we will join motif number 4. Okay, pause the video. I will see you shortly. Joining motif 3 is the exact same as joining motif 1. We're just going to be joining to motif 1, whereas when we joined this motif, which is motif 1, we joined it to the main motif here. So I'm going to turn my work, and I have worked up to the end of round 6. So I need to get to a corner. So I'm going to slip stitch into the chain space, and then chain 4. Then we're going to skip this puff and place a puff between those 2 puffs as we've been doing. Now we need to skip this puff and place 3 puffs in the chain 5 space. There's 1. Two, and 3. Now we're going to chain 1 because we are going to be joining, and we are going to join to the western corner of motif 1. So we're just going to slip into that chain space and slip stitch, and then chain 1 again. Now we need 3 more puffs in the same chain 5 space on our working motif. Skip this puff, puff between the 2, now we need to slip stitch because we should be chaining 2, but we need to replace one of them, and because this is the closest to the corner, we are going to go to the mirrored on motif number 1 and slip stitch, maybe slip stitch, and then chain 1 in this chain space, double crochet on the working motif, chain 1, go to the next chain space on motif 1, slip stitch, chain 1, skip this double crochet in the next chain space on the working motif, chain 1, look at motif 1, we're going into the next chain space, slip stitch, chain 1, skipping this, double crochet, double crocheting in the chain space, chain 1, back over to slip stitch, chain 1, skip this, double crochet. Now we're going to chain 1. Remember, this is the chain 2 in the round, and whenever we're getting close to a corner, we want that slip stitch to be as close to the corner as possible. So when we start over here on this side, we slip stitch first and then we chain. This time we chain first and then we slip stitch. Now we can go right into the puff between these 2 puffs, and from here you are just going to complete the round as normal. So go all the way around and then start another motif and work yourself all the way up to round 6, and I will meet you to show you how to attach it. That is going to be motif number 4, and this is going to be a different attachment because this is a completely interior square. It's not on the borders. So this one is going to be different. Go ahead and pause the video. I will see you soon. So this is what we're working with so far. This is the main motif, motif number 1, motif number 2, and then motif number 3 is connected up there. Now we need to work in motif number 4, which is super exciting because there's all kinds of connections that we are going to be making. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my work here just a little bit because the first corner we're going to be connecting to is right there. That is the eastern corner of motif number 3. I have worked motif number 4 all the way up to the end of round 6. So we're going to slip stitch into that chain space, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Same as always, puff stitch between these 2 puffs. Then we're going to skip this puff, 3 puffs in the chain 5 space. There's our 3 puffs. Now we need to chain 1. We're going to replace the next chain with a slip stitch. This is motif number 3. Remember, we just turned it. So you're going to be connecting the western corner of motif number 4 to the eastern corner of motif number 3. So this is the corner right here. We need to slip stitch into that corner space, and then chain 1. Now we're going to finish off this corner. Skip this puff, puff between the 2 puffs, okay, now it's time to go into the side. Now for this side, we are not going to be joining to this. This is a northern corner. Remember, north, south, east, and west, except for the outside borders. So if you look, I'm going to pull this up and see if I can turn this around for you. If you see where it sits, the sides need to connect to the sides of motif number 1. So this is where we're going to be doing our connecting. The only connecting to motif number 3 is right here on the corner. So I'm going to turn this back around. And because we are next to a corner, we have a slip stitch in that first chain space on motif number 1. And then chain 1. And from here, it's the same that we've been doing with all the rest of them. So I'm just going to quickly go through this. Chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1, and double crochet, chain 1, and one last slip stitch in that last chain space on motif 1. Now we're going into the puffs, so let me get to the corner. This is all the same. One more puff. All right, now we are at the corner. Now, again, I'm going to pull this up so you can see it because I want to make sure that you understand. If you turn around and you look at it, we are working on the southern corner of motif number 4. Okay, remember, north, south. So that means that we are going to be connecting to the northern point. Remember, I told you to leave this alone. Don't worry about it. You'll understand later. Now is that point where you're going to understand. The southern corner of motif number 4 connects to the northern corner of the base motif. So that's what we're going to do. It just looks kind of crazy right now because we have everything turned around, but if you turn it around and look at it, you'll see. So we are going to go over these two right here. The north and the south always rest over the east and the west. Chain 1, and then we are going to slip stitch to that northern corner of the main motif. Maybe. There we go. Slip stitch, chain 1. Now finish your corner off as normal. So that's 3 puffs, and then you're skipping and doing the puffs in between the puffs. It's lots and lots of puffs. And that is that 3? Yep, that's 3. Okay, one more over here. Okay, now I'm going to flip this around one more time for you so you can see. So we have joined this corner right here. This northern corner is free. Join down the side, join the southern corner. Now we are going to work up to this point right here. We're going to work up the side, okay? So now we're going to be connecting to motif number 2. I don't think I like that pull through. That's better. All right, so we're grabbing motif number 2, and in that first chain space, slip stitch, chain 1. And this is the same as the other ones, it's just you're working it on a different motif. And that is the next chain space. So slip stitch, chain 1, slip stitch. Come here, working motif, turn around. It's trying to spin around on me. Double crochet over here, chain 1, and there is the next chain space, slip stitch, chain 1, one more double crochet over here, chain 1, and then slip stitch. So now your connection is all done. I'm gonna finish out this corner for you real quick so you can see what it is supposed to look like, because you're gonna want to join this corner, but you do not join this corner. So remember, I told you north, south, east, and west. Unless it's on an outside edge, we are not joining. Oh no. Ooh, I saved it. One, two, three, normal corner. Bear with me, guys. Alright, I'm going to flip this around so you can see it, hopefully. So this is motif number 4. It is our first interior, completely interior motif, and it's the only one that I'm going to show you how to work on the interior, because they're all exactly the same, just like the exterior motifs here. They're all exactly the same. So west to east right here, south to north right here, but we do not connect east to south. We don't do that. This is an interior square. So our next, or an interior motif rather, our next motif here is going to connect just like motif 2 did. We connected that to motif number 1, and then we work down the sides of the main motif. So motif number 5 does the same thing. You're going to connect to the corner of motif number 4 here, then you're going to work down the side and you will connect right here, because this is the outside of the shawl and these do need to be connected. But in the next round, because there will be another motif right here, in the next round you'll have 2 interior motifs. So that's where these northern corners will be connected again. So that is how you join as you go, working on Amy's embrace. Okay, hopefully this has given you all of the information that you need to know. All of your motifs on the outside edge over on the right, they will all be worked just like motif number 2. It's just that you'll be moving up and up and up. All of the motifs on the left hand side of your shawl will be worked just like motif number 1. Again, you'll just be moving up and up and up, and each of your interior motifs will be joined exactly like this one. Okay? So I hope this has been helpful. If you still have questions, you can try and place them in the comment section below, but the best way to get help is to join the It's Crochet O'Clock Facebook group. because there are lots of people in there. The administrators, the moderators, and the testing team are all in the It's Crochet O'Clock Facebook group, and we have staff from all over the world. So no matter what time of day it is, the chances of you getting a very quick answer in the It's Crochet O'Clock Facebook group, if you run into problems, that's going to be your best bet to get support and help, because I do have to sleep sometimes, so it may take me a while to respond to your YouTube comment. So again, I will see you guys for the next video. You're going to continue this all the way up until your shawl is as large as you want it. You should have 8 rows going up of motifs. By the time you complete it, you should have 36 total motifs, including your main motif here. And then I will show you guys how to do the half motifs to straighten out the top edge. See you soon.